Hey there, and welcome back to the Total Transition Podcast, where we talk about transition and all of life's changes. And we try to do so with a lens of humanity, really connecting with our guests and with our audience in terms of the different types of changes that life just brings our way a lot of times. I'm Jordana McGonigal. I'm your host and your navigator along this path. And every other week, we bring you inspiring stories, practical insights from veterans who have, in one way or another, successfully transitioned and navigated that transition in a myriad of ways. So this week, we are talking with Annette Whittenberger, and I am so excited. I know I say that every week. I am so excited, but I am excited to have you guys as guests. I really am, because all of you, like I personally know, have great stories. But Annette is a retired combat veteran who describes herself as an accidental entrepreneur and founder of a wild ride called life, as well as a number of other things, right? But on a wild ride called life, you incorporate stories from post-military life, a mom living with PTSD, anxiety, depression, all of those things that life brings us, right? So Annette, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And I struggle with your bio because it's so long. Like that, the stuff that I just gave, hey, listeners, it was like a smidge compared to what this woman is doing. So you need to check her out, because she's definitely worth following. So thank you so much for being here, because I know you've got a lot going on, right?
But I will do everything I can to be with you. So thank you very much.
Well, fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off, because everybody's busy. And Annette, we know you're busy. So what we always start with is really talking about kind of your life's path, right? Because there's a lot of changes. It's not just out of the military that we go through. There's changes along the way that really kind of force our hand in some cases and show us a path in other cases of where we want to go and how we want to develop as humans. And so what I want to start with is especially your military career, right? How did you decide to go into the military? And then what was that career path like?
I love telling this story. I actually, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school, and the military it wasn't even on my mind until about senior year.
Yeah, they don't have recruiting offices at Catholic girls' school, do they?
No, they don't. Everybody was going to go attend an Ivy League school, a big name school. And I was the type of person that was like, man, I just want to graduate, because I was just not disciplined. I was very bad. I had a friend who enlisted, and I thought she was such a badass. And I was like, oh my God, I kind of want to do that. So I had a recruiter come to the house. I was sitting at the table with my boyfriend at the time. And I looked at him. I was like, should I do this? He's like, and I got scared and I didn't do it. I regretted it ever since, but I knew that I was going to figure out a way to do it. I didn't really know a lot about all the branches. I think I had another friend who had joined the Air Force afterwards as well, but I just wasn't mature enough. So I went to community college, and when I was looking at universities, I sought out ones that offered the ROTC program. And so I applied to Arizona State University, and I did the ROTC thing, and I was just trying it out. I didn't get a scholarship because I didn't have the grades. Go figure. So my time was coming up, and they were like, you need to make a decision, if you're going to do it or not. You could get a scholarship, but you'll have to stay an extra year. I was like, heck no, I need to get out of here. Yeah. I could not stay in college anymore because I was paying it all myself. And so I said, okay, well, let's do it. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'll do 3 years and then I'll get out. Well, I met my husband senior year of college, and he was a gold bar recruiter at the time. And so he was already out doing his thing. And we got married, and I just kind of followed him around for 17 years. Every year I didn't have a plan. I was really bad at that. I was like, we'll just figure out what's going to happen next year. And 17 years later, at that time, I did not get to retire at 20 because I didn't get picked up for lieutenant colonel. It was very, very difficult. But yeah, I dual military for 17 years and then I retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot, right?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And it's interesting. The our last episode we talked with um Enrique Gonzalez, who was talking about, how our life path, how sometimes we choose things that are the shiny things for us, and that's how we make our life trajectory. So you end up doing quite a stint in the military,
I
though.
did.
I
I
mean,
did.
that's not. I think it's probably deserving of more than just kind of following around or kind of hanging in there for a few years, right?
Right.
So tell us about that. How did that, from the time that you're signing up to some of the paths that it took you throughout, because it's something that I think you can't really foresee at the future or at the beginning.
So I was watching as my ex-husband now, I saw him progress in the military and he was actually he inspired me because I would see the positions he would get and I thought, you know what, that's really cool. I want to try to do that. And so I did get to experience being a commander and a battalion XO and all those things because I started to really feel like I'm worth that. Let me try to do that. And when I was given the opportunity, that just helped me keep excelling in the military and keep moving forward. So I knew that this is what I want to do now. I finally figured out my life a little bit and thought, well, I want to be able to have those leadership roles. And I deployed to Afghanistan, I deployed to Iraq, and I loved my soldiers. I loved that little family that we had, and it helped me to keep excelling and getting promoted and staying as long as I could. Um, but yeah, it wasn't just following him around like you said. It was I want to do that too. That looks like it's just really an amazing opportunity. And because I was a chemical officer, we didn't always get opportunities like that. So I actually had to interview to be a company commander. And when I was selected, it was a really big deal to me. And I got to do that for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've got an extensive career, right, of your own volition, right,
Right.
through the military. What makes you choose to make that shift, right? Because and there's a number of reasons that people exit, obviously, but what was it that kind of changed for you to where you're like, this is where I get off, right? This is where I change trains or something.
Well, when I didn't get selected for promotion, I was they gave me the option. You can either retire
Mhm.
or you can finish out in the National Guard or Reserves. And they gave me 30 days to make that decision. And so I did go talk to a recruiter and he looked at me. He was like, ma'am, if I were you, I would take the retirement.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. I took the retirement and it changed everything after that.
So what does that change? Because obviously there's a lot of emotions involved. There's a lot of
Mhm, mhm.
logistics involved. But what did that look like for you?
It was I think that's when everything just like all those bricks just started to fall and I started to realize I'm not okay. I held in everything for 17 years because you don't really have time to sit there and cry and complain, and you just do the thing no matter what's coming at you. You just do it. I can't sit there and say I don't want to go to that meeting. I don't want to go to this training exercise. You do it whether you have kids or not. Now, I had 2 children in the military right when I was a baby lieutenant. So I joined in 99 and my daughter was born in 2000, and then I had a son in 2003. So I was learning how to be a mom, a soldier, and a wife at the same time,
Mhm.
all in Germany.
Oh,
And so
so it's a language barrier, right?
it was just like I didn't have time to figure it out. You just did it. And so when I got out, I was like, well, what do I do now? I don't know who I am. And I fell into a really deep, dark depression. I didn't attend my retirement ceremony. I got the flag in the box and I went home, and that was it. And I just felt like I don't know who the hell I am anymore. Um, I don't know how to be, and I I don't like putting it this way, but for me, it was how do I be just a military spouse?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that looked like because I was Major Whittenberger. I was a leader. I had a purpose, and now I just feel like I didn't. So for about 6 months, I just took the kids to school and I came home and sat on the couch. My husband at the time would ask me, "Well, are you gonna do a resume? Like, what do you want to do?" I was like, "I don't know what I want to do anymore," because I thought I wanted to go back and work as a contractor. I thought I wanted to still be around soldiers, but when I retired, I was living across the street from that headquarters that I retired from. So it was
Right.
just very hard to even drive by the building and see where my last stop was. I didn't know what to do. So that's when I created a Wild Ride Call Life, because I needed a platform to spill my guts. I needed a platform to feel validated and know that I wasn't the only one. And
Mhm.
that's where that journey started.
And do you find that that was, I mean, obviously it was at least somewhat beneficial to you because it's kind of stayed on, but
Right.
we talk with a lot of veterans who have the same issue. They get out, their identity is so wrapped in the rank or the job or what the branch, what have you, that when that falls apart, it is a true identity crisis. Who am I? What do I even want? So
Mhm.
do you feel like that helped you find Annette again and not just Major Wittenberger?
It over time it did. It
Mm.
took years. It took years for me to finally be able to answer who Annette is. But it did help me find some purpose, because I knew that if I could help others, it my healing process was helping others. So if I was able to speak out and other people come back and say I felt that too, then I knew, okay, this is the path I want to be on.
Right.
And from then is when I just did all the things to try to figure out how do I heal,
Mhm.
and help others heal as well.
Yeah. What That's a great kind of segue. What does healing look like? And it's different for each person, but I've had a few people ask me this before. What does it look like when you are healed? Which I don't know. Does anyone ever get to that point where everything is just okay, I'm done, and the halos and the lights and all that kind of stuff? Like, what does that process of healing look like? Either for you or just, others that you've heard from. I mean, you have tons of people that are telling you their stories as well.
I think part of healing is being able to speak so openly about whatever situation is. I
Mhm.
used to be afraid to say anything because I didn't want to be looked at differently. I didn't want to be judged, because I was. I lost some friends along the way. A lot of my peers had no idea that I was struggling so hard. And I put it out on Facebook right in the beginning stages, and people were like, well, why are you telling this, why are you sharing this on social media? So I felt like, oh God, what am I doing? This is so embarrassing. I'm humiliated. But then I just realized, no, I have to figure out another way. And so that I'm still healing, because there's still times where I feel like, what if I would have done this differently? What if I would have taken this job and left my kid? So you think about all the what ifs. But 8 years later, because it's been 8 years since I retired, I have realized that for me, God had he took me out of a situation I no longer needed to be in. He placed me where I'm supposed to be. I am where I'm supposed to be at right now.
Right.
And that has helped me heal a little bit more each day, because I am very stubborn and I will fight everybody to say this is where I'm supposed to be, but really I'm not. So
Mhm.
it's taken time. It
Yeah.
has, but my faith is what helps me. And I'm not perfect. I don't go to church every Sunday. I believe, and that's what's helped me.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good because, I think all of us need that driving factor, right? We need something that's like, no, no, we're not going to collapse today. We're going to get up and
Yes.
move.
Right. And that's, yeah, it's a daily struggle. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get out. Obviously, there's a lot of logistical changes, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. How, and since then, in 8 years, you've, again, this resume over here, guys, is like crazy. And you've got different projects and you've got different avenues that you use to express yourself and other. How do you decide where to move from there? Like, you finally come out of the depression, you're not stuck across the road anymore, that kind of thing. How do you decide to move forward, and how do you choose the things that you move forward on?
So one of the things that helped me in the beginning, and it was a quote that I had read from one of my friends. He had said, "Your mess is your message." And that stuck with me for a very long time. So I knew I needed to do something with this stuff that I was dealing with in order to help other people. I also like to use the phrase, do what sets your soul on fire. So at the moment, if I am no longer feeling it at that time, I knew I needed to step back
Mhm.
and focus on something else. And it's very hard because everything that I do, everything that's on the resume or wherever, is because I truly have the passion for it. I will
Mhm.
never put myself into something that I'm like, I don't really know. I have to be all in because I have that opportunity now and I want to be able to give my all. So, yeah, whatever I'm working on at that moment, I have chosen to do this because I believe in it wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
And it's hard because I do like to do all the things. But
Right.
I have learned that sitting behind a computer for 12 hours a day is not good. I
Right.
have to learn to step away and get a manicure or fill in my grays. Like I have to I have to be able to take that time because otherwise I will. And I used to just sit behind this computer trying to figure out how to make money or be popular or do whatever, but it's not about that anymore, right? Like all
Mhm.
the likes and followers and whatever, although we need it in this day and age, that is not what makes me me.
Right.
I am my brand, so to speak. I am who I am, and I'm not going to change that. So that's really how I figure it out is okay, this is what I want to do and I'm going to make this work, and if it doesn't, I have to learn to give myself grace and go, this is just not where I'm supposed to be.
Right. Right. Well, in doing that, kind of to play off of that, because you tend to extend yourself in places you are passionate about or as an advocate in different things. And one of the things recently that you have personally gone through has also made you quite an advocate for that. And that is something that a lot of military families go through, and that's divorce.
Yes.
So tell us, as much as you want to tell us, but what, as the advocate, not for divorce, but just in general for those relationships and individual needs, what is it that you see that needs to be said?
Divorce, like mental health, is such a stigma. You know,
Mhm.
we are afraid to talk about our mental health, and God forbid we talk about divorce because we feel like we're a failure. I've personally felt like I failed. I've failed my kids. I let them down because I couldn't make the marriage work. But we shouldn't have to feel that way. It's hard though because you see so many people that are happily married and it's wonderful and God bless them. But then there's some of us behind closed doors that just couldn't, it didn't work and it's hard and it sucks. But we need to be able to provide a community where we feel we can use our voice to talk about it, because it is hard. And it is, we do feel shame, but we shouldn't feel that, because it's not just a part of life, but it is something that happens
Right.
more often than not. I know way too many people, and I think it's in the air, that is going through it, and it sucks. But why can't we talk about it? Why can't we help each other with resources?
Mhm.
I joined a couple Facebook groups, but it's like a community of mean girls, and I'm just too old for that crap. I want to be able to feel like I can ask a question without feeling like, well, why do you feel like you deserve that? Or why didn't you do
Mhm.
this? That's just not how it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, sometimes with military law, the only answer they give you is, this is just how it's done. And it's just not right. And so when are we going to make change to be able to protect the military families or spouses with what they're entitled to? And
Mhm.
I'm going through that now, and it's embarrassing that this is how we're treated. And I'm going to be an advocate to speak up about it,
Right.
and to make people feel like, know that they're not alone, and that you can ask the questions. You are allowed to retain as many lawyers as you want, but also remember that you are entitled to have military law help advise you through it. Not everybody knows that. You
Mhm.
aren't alone in this. You might go through several lawyers, but find the one that you feel comfortable with. Go with your gut. And that's a scary process, because it's an overwhelming emotional time to go through something so traumatic. But you feel like, well, if I just sign that paper, it'll just end. I personally am trying to fight that, and I want to help others feel like they don't have to do that either. Like, you are allowed to ask all the questions, and feel empowered through it. Don't,
Mhm.
it's just hard to feel empowered when you're going through some shitty things. But yeah, so I could talk about this all day, because I learned something new every day, and I went through it for a whole year. So
Yeah.
but I know families that have gone through it for like 10 years, and so it's just, I don't, my goal is to make change, and to help others get that power back.
Right. Well, and I think you bring up a really, really good point, not just about, this topic of divorce or the breakup of a family in one way or another, but I think there's a bigger challenge of, so often our mental health fails because we think we're alone.
Yeah.
We think everyone else has the pretty perfect marriages because that's the picture that was on, social media and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so often our own perspectives on everyone else are what puts us maybe in a worse place. Maybe we were in the bad place already, but maybe we're not better because we are comparing ourselves to everyone else. And I think that your stuff, even back to the original site and that kind of thing, it was always really about kind of sharing that of like, you're not alone and everybody has these issues or different issues, and it's okay.
Right. And
So yeah, go ahead.
well, no, and it is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so what do you tell someone if you meet someone who's, struggling with that of like, I feel like a failure. I feel like this is only happening to me and I'm the problem. I'm the problem, right? How do you start that conversation to really pull them into a reality that's like, hey, nope, it's going to be okay.
So in the beginning stages of this current situation, I had people tell me, "You've got this. It's going to be okay." And that was hard for me, because I didn't feel like that at all. I don't have this because it sucks right now. So I would not tell somebody that. I would be honest. It's going to suck, but remember who you are. Remember who you were before, remember who you were during and after. And realize that it's not all your fault. It takes two people to to cause something like this. It's, it's decisions that have to be made, but it's do not ever take all the blame for something like that, and remember just, and I think that's just remember. And let me back up. I think that's the biggest takeaway right now is we need to remember who we are as a person during all the situations that we're going to go through, and focus on getting that power back, because we are allowed to speak up. We are allowed to speak our mind and do what we need to do for ourselves, because I was told this, and it was really heartbreaking for me to hear, but at this point it's almost like it is a business agreement. You have to make sure you are protected. Right. And that's what we have to do for ourselves and for our kids, but we can't let it change us as a person.
Right. So I know we need to kind of wrap up and stuff, but I always ask this one question of all of our guests, because I do think even if it's not aligned with what we've talked about so far, everyone who has gone through this transition process has learned stuff along the way, right? Mm-hmm. And it's so critical that we share all of those little bits and pieces with each other, right? Because it just helps. It either helps you foresee something or expect something or manage something, right? So if you had one singular piece of advice to give to anyone in this post-military world or the transition phase, or even just going through a life change, what would that be? Puppy treats.
You are a lot stronger than you think you are. I have learned that so hard. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
I was told that. I didn't believe it, but I am actually surprised at myself how much I have risen from the ashes. And as long as you have your people, your circle of people, you can get through anything. And I've learned that personally. And I would tell people that whatever you need, I'm here, but you can absolutely survive this.
Right. Well, Annette, I appreciate you being here so much. Before we leave, though, tell everybody where to find you, what projects to look at. You're doing a ton of stuff, so do all of your promos and tell us what all you're into and how we can kind of support you along the way.
I have to share my biggest accomplishment with my team is Veteran Lifestyle Magazine. We are absolutely passionate about this, and we want to share your story. So go find us on all the social media sites, and send us a message if you want to share your story. Veteran Lifestyle Magazine.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, you heard it here. That's how you get your story told. So you could and meet Annette and her team along the way. Annette, thank you so much for joining us today. And to our listening audience or our YouTube audience, thank you for showing up today too. I mean, you're the reason we do all this. And I think I join Annette in saying we're here for a purpose, and the purpose is beyond us getting on a podcast in an afternoon where we've got dogs and kids and everything else happening. So if we can be of any help, I hope you'll reach out. But in the meantime, check out this episode, future episodes on YouTube and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much again, Annette, and we'll see you next time.